Hello, my wonderful AJR fans out there. In this video, I'm going to do a review of Yes, I'm a Mess. But before we get started, I just wanted to quickly plug a song that I just released called Out of Body. If you'd like to support me by listening to the song, feel free to check out a link here or in the description below. Also, if you haven't done so yet, feel free to subscribe to this channel. I do a lot of AJR news, and with the new album coming out very soon, I'm sure you won't regret it. Now, without further ado, let's get started. So I wanted to start off by quickly explaining how I review songs. There are 4 categories that I go over. There's musicality, catchiness, structure, and lyrics. With musicality, that's essentially how you're able to use the instruments and how each plays a specific role in creating a cohesive piece of music. Catchiness is pretty self-explanatory, but I specifically look at the melodies in the vocals and instrumentals, as well as any hooks there are. With structure, that's how a song is laid out. So if it starts with a chorus, does that make sense, and so on. And then finally, with lyrics, I want to know if it tells a story, if it means something, and if the lyrics just make sense. And then after all that, I give a final score and see if it passes the vibe check. So let us begin by talking about the musicality. So the first thing I wanted to bring up is the whistle, and that stands out so much in the song in a very good way. Now, I'll be talking about the whistle a lot in this video, but as far as musicality goes, it makes a lot of sense in the song and adds to the overall sound greatly. AJR also makes use of sound effects like this water dripping. Now, on the first listen, I did find that sound effect to be a little bit distracting, especially because they pan it from one ear to the other. But I do like them, and I think if anything, they're just a little too loud in the mix. But honestly, after the second time listening to it, you hardly notice them, so I think they're fine. Something else that was super prominent in the song was the use of strings. So it was really interesting because they use a lot of different techniques. They have like pizzicato, bowed strings, and even this like short, rigid sound like a spiccato. I think the strings definitely aid in making the sound of the song, and I think it complements everything that goes on and all the other instruments as well. One thing that kind of bothered me, and I think could have been a little bit more interesting, was the drum beat. It follows the same offbeat rhythm the entire song, and I think because of that, it makes the song feel a little less diverse and less dynamic than I want it to be. But despite that, I think the rhythm does work in the song really well, and it makes it feel almost like a samba, which gives it this life and energy. And then finally, when talking about the overall sound, I think the song is pretty balanced. If I'm going to be really nitpicky, I'd say that there's a lot of low mids in the song, but nothing's too distracting outside of that water dripping sound, and I think everything was just really intentional and really well mixed. So my score for musicality would be an 8 out of 10. And now moving on to catchiness and memorability. So again, I'm going to mention this whistle because it is such a prominent part of this song. What I love so much about this whistle is that it's super easy to replicate yourself. Like, it's not in a very high range or a low range. It's like a perfect range for anybody to be able to do themselves. Not to mention the melody itself is pretty simple, so it's easy to remember. Like, you listen to it maybe 1 or 2 times and you can already repeat it. Also, I think the chorus melody is pretty memorable as well. It basically just bounces back from 2 different pitches in that first part of the phrase. And that simplicity is honestly super key when creating a catchy song, so kudos to them. I think the only thing that the chorus falls short of is that it's a little bit of a mouthful when talking about the words, especially with all the S's said in such a short amount of time. It's a little hard to get out. But I guess that's being a little bit nitpicky, and if they did change the overall composite rhythm of the chorus, it could change the overall feel of it. So it's not something that really bothered me. I just thought it was worth mentioning. So my score for memorability is a 9. And now on to structure. So the structure goes intro, and then it follows verse, pre-chorus, chorus, post-chorus, and then it does that again. Verse, pre-chorus, chorus, post-chorus. Then it has like a B chorus, and then finally a breakdown. So it follows somewhat of a standard structure when it comes to the meat of the song, but then has its own flexibility, which I like. I think it's great that they start with the whistle in the intro, again, because that is just a great way to set the stage for the overall feel of the song. But I think the part that I appreciated the most was the end when they have that mini breakdown. And honestly, my biggest critique is that I wish there was something beyond that breakdown, because it almost feels like it's a bridge that doesn't lead to anything. And I love that section and that it reinvents the key aspects to the song, but it also feels like it was for nothing because we didn't hear anything after that. Like, why even have it? So I guess my biggest critique is that I enjoyed it so much, I wish it would continue. So for structure, I'm gonna give it a score of 7.5. And now let's talk about the lyrics. Overall, I thought the lyrics were great. I love this idea of self-acceptance, saying, I like myself like this. And with the chorus saying, yes, I'm a mess with an S on my chest, obviously alluding to Superman, which I take to mean that they have a lot of struggles, but they're going to face them head on. And I love this because this narrator talks about their pressures and struggles throughout the song, so when it gets to this chorus, it completes that story by saying that they're going to push through it anyway. And then by the end of the song, you kind of get this impression that the narrator is wearing their mess as a badge, or at least embracing it. And I really like this idea because it's kind of like telling your demons that you don't care. And that was definitely one of the biggest positives of this song, is that the overall attitude was confidence without being cocky about it. So I give the lyrics a score of a 9. So now let us recap. So overall, I think the strengths lied in the whistle, the catchiness of the melodies, and the lyrics and attitude. And the biggest weaknesses I felt were in dynamics and diversity, which it just made it feel like the song stayed at a very similar level the whole time. And then I wish it could have been a little longer and add something different at the ending after that breakdown. So with that, I have an average score of 8.4, so it definitely passes the vibe check. I also asked everyone in my Discord server to rate the song, and the average score for that was 8.8. Speaking of the Discord, if you'd like to join in on conversations just like that, I'll include a link to that in the description below. And of course, I'd love to know your thoughts on this song. What did you like? What didn't you like? And how would you rate it? Again, feel free to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet, and leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. But thank you so very much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.
Ba